Welcome to episode number 82 of the Product Biz Podcast. My name is Monica Little, and today we are talking about hidden tips and tricks that most aren't sharing about SEO with Crystal Waddell. So, really, we're diving even deeper into SEO today with some top tips, tricks, and hacks for your website with Crystal. This episode is honestly full of gems of knowledge on how to take your SEO game up a notch, from making your product title between 50 to 60 characters with a special genius tip that Crystal shares on what words to use to fill up all those characters. Also, why you should be on Etsy and all of the platforms to amp up your SEO game, and how to use a Google business listing to elevate SEO further. You're going to walk away with actionable, easy to implement tips that you can put to work today to help you get found when people are searching for products just like yours on Google. And we've had a couple SEO experts on the show who've all shared incredible knowledge, but these tips that Crystal is sharing just literally blew me out of the water because they are so interesting, so unique, things I haven't heard before. So I know you're going to take these tips, implement them, and just be just as excited as I am as we went through this recording. A little bit about Crystal. She is an agile digital marketer, aka for she wears a lot of hats. And she's scaling her Etsy handmade business now using Shopify and sharing her journey and lessons learned along the way. She also helps other business owners by training their staff to do the website SEO tasks that generate visibility and sales, which you're going to hear about in this episode as well. But let's bring her on so you can start to hear these tips and tricks and get started with amping up your SEO today. Well, welcome, Crystal, to the Product Biz Podcast. I'm super excited to have you here today.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, Monica. I'm so excited as well.
Yeah, this is going to be such a fun conversation about SEO, specifically for Shopify and Etsy. So I'm excited to have you to kind of speak to both angles, because I've had people on the show specifically about SEO on Shopify and getting into some of those really intricate pieces. But I think it's going to be good to hear from you, since you are really scaling on Etsy using Shopify. So learning more about that. But before we dive in, I would love for you just to introduce yourself. So tell us what you do, who you are, how you got here today, what you teach. The full story.
Wow. I'm like, who am I? Well, my name's Crystal Waddell. I am the founder of collagenwood.com, which is a shop that I started on Etsy back in 2014. And it caters mainly to senior night and the idea of senior night gifts and ideas for families. And my big thing is I love to celebrate moms, because when I was growing up, my biological mom left when I was just like 6 months old or whatever. And I had a couple of surgeries, and, I spent a lot of my life thinking that, oh no, my mom left because I made life too hard for her or whatever. So I looked around and I saw all of these amazing moms, and, I was like, when I grow up, I want to be just like that or whatever. So, that's kind of where all of it came together. And so I just love celebrating moms. Whenever I see a mom just loving her kid and doing a great job, I just want to be the one to go up and be like, bravo. So that's how I started my company. And then through the process of, growing on Shopify, I learned about SEO and just the magic that is the internet. So that's why I'm here to talk about SEO. So.
Yeah, I love it. And what a beautiful story of how you started your business and the reasoning behind it. I think it's just great to hear how you're taking, what happened to you and turning it into a situation now where you can really celebrate others. So I love how you really turn that into what you do now. So tell me a little bit more about the actual products that you make. So I love how you said it's for senior night, but give us just some examples of the products that you make and sell. And also tell us, did you get started on Etsy and then you shifted to having an Etsy website and Shopify, or where did you start and where is that now?
Okay, so I'll start from the end. When I first got started, I started on Etsy, and part of the reason why I, kind of got upset with Etsy was the main reason I started on Etsy, and it was because I was scared. I was scared to put my name out there, and I thought, well, if it doesn't, if it's not successful, then, it's my Etsy shop. It's not Crystal Waddell that failed, right? But then later on, as I started to grow, I would put things on Pinterest, and on Pinterest, they would send people back to my Etsy shop, and it would also, show all my competitors, some of whom were copying off of me, because senior night is a night in an athlete's career where it's like their final home game. And so, parents, coaches want to do something special. So what I do is I create jersey number collages where I put photos of the kids' athletic career all over their number, or maybe a letter or logo of the school or a giant poster or something like that. And the reason why my business grew was because someone asked for numbers when I started doing this. And originally I had to go to Hobby Lobby or um, Michael's, AC Moore, all of the craft stores to get wooden letters, but no one sold numbers. And so I had to start making them. And so now people ask me for the numbers as well. We make like 3.5 foot numbers. I ship them all over the world. So senior night's part of it, but it's also the numbers and stuff now too as well. But yeah, that's why I kind of shifted to Shopify, because I knew that I had a really special product, really unique product with the numbers and the collages. And I knew that, I was the first one because we had to make the numbers.
I love it. So currently, do you still have your Etsy shop, or have you fully switched to Shopify and now you're only doing things on Shopify?
I do have both. I actually sell on Amazon Handmade as well, because
Nice.
one thing I want your audience to understand is that Etsy, Amazon Handmade, any like marketplace that's out there on the internet, that is a great offsite SEO resource for you. So even as you're building your own Shopify store and your own domain, your own .com, having a connection with an Etsy is something that actually lifts your authority on the internet. And Etsy's
Mm.
great. They do let you, link to your website, your blog, that type of thing. So you definitely want to take advantage of having both if you have the capability to do that.
Ooh, I love that. So let's dive into that a little bit more, because I love how you said the offsite SEO. So being and having your products on Etsy and Amazon is beneficial for your website. But how does that work? Is it like backlinks, or what's the reasoning that actually helps, and how does someone put that into practice? Or is it just the fact of having them?
Well, sometimes it could be backlinks. I think the links that come from Etsy are no follow, but even no follow links, they at least show the search engines that they're willing to link to you, even if they're not giving you a direct follow link, so it shows that thread of the web goes somewhere, and that Etsy's willing to, associate themselves with that end of the web, right? The other thing happens in the search engine results pages. So when someone searches for your brand, and let's say they search for my brand, which happens to be Collage and Wood, on the search engine results page, every place that your company is will show up on that page. And so,
Mm.
especially in the age of, this generative AI search and different things that Google and other search engines are doing, they pull from those search results even when they give like their little chat response. So you want to make sure that you take up as many of those search result spots as possible. And that's one of my favorite little tricks of all of this, is that you can show up for your brand on Etsy, on Amazon, on your website, on Pinterest. That's the point of all that. On Instagram, LinkedIn, all of those things. That's why it's so important to have a presence everywhere. Some people say just focus on one platform. And I'm not saying that the reasoning behind that is wrong, but from an SEO perspective, I say it's wrong, because we need to show up in all of the places in search that we possibly can.
I love that. I've never thought of it from that way. I'm a big fan of being on all of the different platforms to get in front of more people, to get in front of shoppers, depending on where they shop. But I absolutely love that strategy of not only being where people shop, but also when someone types it in on Google, if you're showing up from every single one of those placements that you just listed, that's a good, what, 5 out of the 10 maybe first search results that people may see. I think that is
Exactly.
genius. And then they're bound to click on you. They're seeing maybe your company name over and over. They're starting to get intrigued. That is such a good tip. I absolutely love it. Cool.
Yay.
Well, one thing that I really want to dive into, as we talk about SEO, because I have had some guest experts on SEO on the podcast. So I think people now are familiar with what SEO is and the benefit. But I want to specifically talk about SEO strategy on Etsy versus Shopify and the difference between both. Now, hearing your background that you've had some great success on Etsy and you also have your Shopify, tell me the difference between SEO strategy between those two platforms.
Okay, well, I would first start to say with like Etsy and Pinterest kind of mirror each other in the fact that you can kind of keyword stuff, in the headlines and pretty much everywhere or whatever. That's not how you want to write your, let's say, product title in Shopify. So in Shopify, instead of, putting as many different descriptive keywords as possible, in my product title, I want to name the thing, as close to what someone is going to search for as possible. That's what I want to do first, because I want to rank for whatever the thing is. Secondly, and I picked this tip up from a Pagefly webinar a few years ago, and it's absolutely brilliant. When you are creating product titles, which is essentially your H1 on your page in Shopify, you want it to be between 50 and 60 characters. And so a lot of times with a product title, it's hard to make it that full 50 to 60 characters, especially without keyword stuffing, right? But here's how you do it. You write the title of the thing, right? You give your product title, and then you put in a little bit of social proof or client testimonial language, something from an Etsy review, or if you don't have anything yet for Shopify, something that anyone's ever said about your product, and you put it in quotation marks, something like for me, it was, my son cried when I gave it to him. You know what I mean? So it's like, here's the senior night gift, and here's the social proof that you're going to love it. So that's a little bit of a difference in terms of like the titles between platforms. And, the essence of the description is about the same, because you want to describe the product. You want to give information on, what it's going to be like to order it, and the process, and then receiving it, and how long shipping takes, and all that type of stuff. All of those things are, um, they're the same across e-commerce platforms. You're going to need to do those things. But you do have to do your own meta tags and metadata in Shopify. So again, that product title is essentially your H1, which is your meta title in Shopify. And then you have a description that's about 150 to 160 characters that you have to write to describe what's on the page. And a lot of people say, oh, Google doesn't worry about meta descriptions anymore. But you know what they do worry about? Click-through rate. And you know what improves your click-through rate? A good meta description that gets people to understand what they're going to be clicking on once they click on your link in the search results. So, that's how I kind of feel it all goes together.
I love it. Okay, and one question I have for you, as you were talking about meta tag and metadata. So you said it's important for the click-through rate. So where does the meta tag or metadata show up for the customer that it leads to a click-through? Walk me through that in a little bit more detail.
Sure. It's the search results. So like anytime you search anything and you get on that search results page with all of the, like the blue link at the top and then the little paragraph underneath of it, the blue link is the H1/meta title. And then the little paragraph underneath it is the meta description. So that's where it
Love
shows
it.
up.
Okay, cool. So that's what's showing up on Google. And then if you have accurate information in there that gets someone intrigued and now they click, then that's helping the algorithm on Google to actually get seen to more people. So what do you
Mhm.
recommend for people to have in that paragraph that's in there? And what is that actually called? Is that meta description? What is that called that's going on Google underneath the title?
It's called a meta description.
Meta
And one
description.
thing, and one thing that's really important in Shopify, this happens to most of the Shopify stores that I've audited or helped people, kind of revamp what they did. The most common error that I see is like with a product page, people will copy the product page because there's so much of the same information that's going to go from page to page, right? Maybe. I don't know, but we think so, right? We think we're going to save ourselves time. But what ends up happening is we end up not only copying the page, but the metadata. So we're copying the page title and the meta description. So we want all of our meta descriptions to be unique to the page that they serve. And, whatever your keyword is that you're trying to win, that product keyword that you're trying to win, it should go at the beginning of the meta description in a natural way. And then you just have to write like you're talking to a human. Like if someone came into your store and they were interested in a product, what would you say about that product? You wouldn't talk like a robot,
Right.
you would say, this is what you're looking for, and we've got it, and here's why you're going to love it. You just want to kind of present it that way.
Yeah. Okay. And one thing that you said is that this meta description should be unique for each page. So when you say
Mhm.
page, do you also mean for each product, right? So for
Each
every single
product,
product.
yes.
Okay, cool. And then you mentioned knowing the keyword that you want to win, that you're trying to win. So can
Mhm.
you talk me through what if someone doesn't know what keyword they're trying to win? Is there a method to this, or is it just the category of product that you sell? What advice do you give to that?
Oh, this is my favorite thing. This is when I learned about SEO, the next thing that I learned about was keyword research. And that is the foundation of a well optimized Shopify store. So when you think about what keyword you want to win, you have to also consider what are your customers calling the thing you sell. And again, a great example for me was I tell you, I make photo collages, Collage is not really a natural word. I mean, maybe it's a natural word for people who use Instagram or social media to like create different picture graphics or whatever, but it's not a natural word and it's not what people use to describe what I sell. They say something like pictures on wood. Now, I'm not saying that you have to completely change your product title to reflect that, but you do need to keep that in mind as you're creating your product title, your product description, and the meta description, because it's what are people actually thinking they're looking for when they're looking for your solution or for your product. And so,
Mm-hmm.
even just going through Google and looking is, a great start. I asked my husband, I remember we were sitting in a mall in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I was like, give me the words that you would use to describe this. And he did. And that's how I started. And I still have that spreadsheet. I still use it to this day to create Pinterest pins and different things like that. But if you want to go a level up, the next best resource that I would give you is something called Keywords Everywhere. And there is a fee to it. I think it's like $10 or $15 for 100,000 keyword searches or whatever. This is something that if you go in with an open mind, I think you will have your mind blown, because what it does is you put in the word that you think people are searching for, and then it will give you a bunch of different related keywords. And from a product seller perspective, it not only has given me additional keyword ideas and product name ideas, but content ideas as well.
Mm.
Because once you know what people are searching for, it's a lot easier to create content around that thing.
Oh, I love it. Such good advice. And keywords everywhere. Is that a website? Is that an app? Where do people access this?
It's a website. You can go to keywordseverywhere.com. It's a
Beautiful.
plugin for Google Chrome or Firefox or whatever browser you happen to use. And there are some other free tools as well, but Keywords Everywhere, I'm just going to keep it simple and say go there.
Yeah. And how you've explained it is you pretty much type in the type of product that you're selling and it's going to give you other words that people are searching for similar items or other questions they're maybe searching for specifically on Google. Is that the output that it gives you?
Yeah, so what happens is you just type in a regular Google search, and then Keywords Everywhere populates on the right side of your browser. And so you get
Ooh.
to see what shows up in the search results, but then Keywords Everywhere has all of these different suggestions for you. So,
Yeah.
and something that we don't understand, I don't think, when we very first start doing keyword research, is this concept of search volume and keyword difficulty. So I'm not so much concerned with search volume as I am with search intent and the relevancy, because it's like just because something might be related to photo gifs or whatever doesn't necessarily mean that it's my particular photo gift. So I want to get as specific as possible, using the words that people use to actually search for those things. So search volume is the average number of times a particular keyword or term is searched per month on average. And search difficulty is how hard it is to actually rank for that
Mm.
particular keyword. And there's lots of different factors that go into that. But the sweet spot is to find a word that has the highest search volume with the lowest difficulty.
Mhm. I love
And
it.
that's where you can rank the fastest.
Beautiful. That is such a great
Mhm.
tip. And I think I want to take that tip that you just said back to what you were talking about the product title. And I have one question to ask you here because I love how you said your product title on Shopify should be between 50 to 60 characters. But if you have like the name of your product or what it is, that's not going to be the full 50 to 60. So for you to add in text from a review in quotation marks, love that tip. Now, when we're talking very like fundamentally on Shopify, does that mean when someone goes to your shop page, if you have something that says shop our all products, then if there's images of every single product, it's going to say that in the title for that product too, like photos in wooden block, and then it's going to have the quotation mark of my son cried when I gave this to him. Does that actually show up on your Shopify website too when people are looking through your entire category?
Well, it depends on your theme because,
Okay.
some themes are going to, say these things are going to show up or whatever. But if you have a theme that shows the title with the product, which pretty sure mine does, yes, that's going to show up there. So for each
Cool.
product.
Okay, and you don't see any issues with that from like a customer point of view if they're on there on your shop page, just viewing everything? It hasn't led to any just like friction or anything with them clicking through. I guess my question is finding that balance between SEO and also having your website be super user friendly. But if you say this
Yes.
doesn't lead to any user friction, then that's cool too. So what's your take on that?
Well, and I love that you brought that up because user experience is an essential part of SEO. So, and honestly, from a user perspective, it's the human to human connection that
Mhm.
makes that less friction, or more frictionless, right? Because when
Yeah.
I'm searching for the perfect gift for my son, and I don't know really what it is, I don't even know what I'm looking for. I may not have ever heard of a senior night gift, but when I see gift for senior night, my son cried when I gave it to him. I'm like, I don't even know what that is, but that's what I want. You know what I mean? Because that's how I want my son to feel when he receives this
Mhm.
thing that I'm giving him. So the social proof is so powerful. It does, in my opinion, I don't think that it can ever be detrimental to a click through. It's only going to enhance and encourage someone and make them feel more confident and secure and safe. And like, I don't know this product, but I like how this product is making me feel.
Yeah, I love it. I think that's genius. So, how does
Yeah.
someone, when they start to implement some of these tactics, how do they check if it's actually working? So, are there any metrics on Shopify or anything like that that show your SEO, your clicks from Google, or how do you know if this is working or not?
Well, my number one way to tell if it's working is if my sales are going up, So
Yeah.
it's like as the revenue goes up, that's one way to tell that it's working. But in terms of search, one thing every Shopify store owner needs to have, even though Shopify does have its analytics within the platform, is to have a Google Analytics account, which now it's GA4. So I know
Hmm.
it sounds really like, but Google has some great tutorials that walk you through it very easily. There's places in Shopify that, a code is supposed to go or the number of the GA4 number is supposed to go. So you just have to put that in there and then let it start working. And then you create a Google Search Console account, which is separate from GA4, but they work together. And once those two things are communicating, then you will get statistics to show, okay, I'm ranking, XYZ, I'm ranking for XYZ number 3, or I'm number 5 or number 1. Oh, you always want to rank number 1 for your brand name. That's my first goal for all my clients. It's like, we need to make sure that you are the first one showing up for your brand. Then secondly, just those keywords that you want to win that you feel like are going to lead to sales. You want to make sure that you're incorporating those. And then you might start to see other words and phrases that people are using to search for your product, and they find themselves on your site. So then you can add those words into,
Hmm.
your Shopify site wherever it makes sense.
I love it. Such good feedback, such great tips. Okay, cool. I do want to just touch on Etsy just slightly and to get your feedback here because we started the conversation and you said Etsy and Pinterest is more keyword stuffing, just having a bunch of keywords in there. So can you just talk me through your strategy on Etsy, knowing that you sold on Etsy, you still sell on Etsy. What has your strategy been to find those keywords specifically for Etsy to help you get more sales and more views on Etsy?
Well, I think with Etsy, the best place to find the keywords again is Etsy. So, just that search bar at the top. I take the same perspective that I have now from SEO, because before I was just putting what I thought people were going to search for, right? So I use the search bar in Etsy to find out related keywords related to the products that I sell. And then when you run ads, the other thing I love about running ads on Etsy, even if it's just like $1 a day, is that they give you a lot of different keywords that you're also getting found for. So then you can, take those keywords and put them in your listings so that you show up more organically, and hopefully you don't have to pay as much in ads. So that's kind of the strategy that I've taken on Etsy.
I love it. Beautiful. Super easy to implement and a great tactic. Cool. So one of the final questions I want to ask you is, what's one thing that the person listening can do today that will have the most impact on their website visibility and credibility?
Believe it or not, it has nothing to do with anything we've talked about so far. Isn't that crazy? But
Yep.
it's something everybody's probably heard of, and it's called Google Business Listing. So
Tell me more.
the great thing about Google Business is it used to be called Google My Business, and now it shows up in Google Maps, and I think its name has fallen on Google Business Listing right now. Um, but the gist of it is that you can create a Google Business account for your Shopify store, your e-commerce store. And even if you are home based, you can still do this. And you can, set it up to where your home address is not showing up there. But this is a key signal to Google that you are a legitimate business.
Ooh.
So as much as you are, cultivating reviews on your Etsy shop or your Shopify store, the best place to have reviews is on your Google Business Listing. So once you get it set up, you can even go a step further. This is for all of our overachievers out there. You can embed your Google Business Listing on your contact page.
Mhm.
And it's a link, a natural link, obviously, between, Google, your site, and the rest of the internet that just establishes your authority. And it's just such a powerful SEO tip. I hope everybody takes it and implements it like this week.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I've had a couple people talk about SEO on here, and I think you've been the queen of really actionable, simple, but impactful tips. Like, I've been writing down
Mm,
quite a few things that you've said, so I love it because these are the things that I haven't heard about personally, but they seem to make a huge impact. And when you explain them, it's like, yeah, of course that makes sense. Like, get reviews on your business listing and then put that on your contact page so Google connects that it's the two of you are the same and starts to boost you for anything that people may be searching that falls into that. So I think that is a genius tip. Now, one thing I want to dive into is, I know that you help other business owners by training their staff to do the website SEO tasks. Because I think a lot of times when we hear SEO, especially with people who are super creative that are making handmade products, the business side of things, I say this all the time, is probably the most intimidating or just the
mhm.
hardest because we're so creative on the other side of the brain. So I love hearing that you actually train people's employees and you train their staff, because that helps to get it off their plate so they can actually stay in their zone of genius while the SEO is still taken care of. So talk me through how that actually works, because I am just so intrigued on what you do.
Okay, so there's a couple different ways that it's going to work in the future, but this is how I've done it in the past. So no matter what, it always starts with strategy, because trying to implement SEO without a strategy is not much better than not doing SEO at all. Because my friend B, she always says you're going to have an SEO strategy whether you mean to or not, because whatever you have, words on your website, that's what Google's going to pick up that your site's about, right? But we can be more strategic, and we can really focus on keywords that we want to win, that are going to drive more business. So that's step one. We create a strategy, and we create a strategy together, because no one knows your business like you do. And so I would really encourage anybody who's listening, if you ever have someone reach out to you in a cold email that says, hey, I can do your SEO and I can do this and this and this, you know what? I would not go with that person, because you need to have a very important voice in this SEO strategy. I'm going
Mm.
to give you an example of one Shopify store owner that I helped, that it was just heartbreaking, because she came to me after spending a few $1,000s with a developer for her store. And a lot of times people think, okay, when I'm getting a developer, or I'm getting a website, it's going to come with SEO. SEO is a separate practice, if you will, in the computer world and or the internet world. And unfortunately, when I went in to help her with her SEO strategy and just kind of see where she was, her SEO was set up for a jewelry store and she sold
Mhm.
candles.
Oh no.
So, can you imagine how just devastating that was for her to think I paid all this money for this website, it's not even finished, and all of the SEO data is for a completely different business. And that's what happens a lot when you work with a company that just kind of does blanket SEO. So it's really important that you work with a strategist first, and then you can designate, okay, this product page or this about page or this whatever page, this blog post page, this is the job of that page. Its job is to win this specific keyword. So once we have this strategy, I can then train anyone on the staff in implementation. And then it's very easy for me to follow up and say, okay, this is what needed to be done on this page. Do you have any questions about that? Then they have, Voxer access to me, to say, hey, these are the problems I'm having. And in the future, I'm actually creating a special website, Shop SEO School, where people can come in and get like 24/7 feedback from virtual Crystal. So it's going to be pretty cool. But yeah, that's how it's worked in the past, just helping people out and, helping their staff feel supported as they do that. Because
Mhm.
SEO is an ongoing process. It's not going to be, oh, I got my SEO done. It's
Mhm.
ongoing. Keywords are evolving, changing. You should be creating content. You'll probably create new products. So SEO is an ongoing thing, and it's good to have someone on your team kind of dedicated to just, checking on things every once in a while.
Yeah, I love it. Sounds like an awesome service. So share with us where people can continue to get to know you, to hear from you, to learn from you, any other services that you offer. Where can people stay in touch?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Monica. I appreciate you having me here today. I love to be over on LinkedIn. I was scared of LinkedIn for a long time, but then I realized, oh my gosh, I know as much about SEO as a lot of these people. So you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram. I'm on every single platform at Knowledge Vomit. So yeah, let that one sink in. But at Knowledge Vomit, you can find me wherever you are. And of course, my website is crystalwaddell.com if you're interested in SEO strategy or Shop SEO School.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Crystal. This was such a great conversation and just love picking your brain and hearing your insights and hearing the awesome tips that you had to share. So thank you so much for
So,
being a guest here on the Product Biz podcast.
thanks for having me.